Oh, yes, I was just thinking, what date is it today? Good morning. Oh, no, 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 no. Let's not do that. You see how, habits just keep cropping up. Good evening, everybody. See, I'm starting properly now. Good evening, good evening, good evening, everybody. Today it is a Friday, November the 5th. There's a rhyme, and it's because it's just gone out of my head right now. So if anybody knows it, likes to write it in. Remember the 5th of November, something like that, and it goes on about Guy Fawkes. For those of you who got the newsletter, you got a little history lesson at the same time, because I told all of you who Guy Fawkes is and what he was about in 1606, I want to say. He was with a group of other people, devised a plot to blow up the Houses of Parliament. Anyway, before we get into that, good evening, everybody. Before we start, I'd like to say good evening to my spirit guide, Grey Eagle. Sorry, oh golly. My spirit guide, Grey Eagle, who is standing to my right side. He's having a chuckle because my mouth doesn't seem to be working as well as it should. We'd also like to say hello to Chris. Hi, Chris.
Hi, Rosemary. Hi, everybody.
And so this is we thought we'd do an off the cuff. And it's not quite off the cuff, I have to say, because off the cuff basically means spontaneous. You don't plan it. You just do it when you feel like it. And it's so much fun to do that because there are no plans. However, this is a sort of an off the cuff because we made a little plan here and there. I thought I would tell you my story of November the 5th. And I know it's an unusual story to tell, but I thought I would tell you the story of why I never, even before I had my daughter, as I was carrying my daughter, I never celebrated the 5th of November. I never celebrated Guy Fawkes Night. And I'm going to tell you the reason why. So it's a bit like story time, isn't it, Chris? I want to start with one.
Close.
I'm not going to because it's not story time. But so, do we have anybody there, by the way? Did anybody join us already?
Oh, yes. Definitely people are on and they're all saying hello.
Hi. Well, good. So, I'm trying to think of the closest thing that you might have in America to Guy Fawkes Night, and I can't think of anything. I mean, I think the only reason we celebrate Guy Fawkes Night is because in the government of the day, we're going back to 16 something or another. In the government of the day, or the king, it would probably be the king, decreed, and Parliament decreed that the 5th of November would be a day of celebration, a day of freedom, because they considered, and rightly so, that they'd uncovered the plot that Guy Fawkes and his cronies had created. They had hidden under the palace. They'd hidden barrels and barrels and barrels of gunpowder. Now, some people say there were over 150 barrels of gunpowder, and some people say there were roughly 15 to 20. It sort of varies. There's no actual history doesn't seem to know quite how many barrels there were, but there were enough barrels of gunpowder, let's put it this way, to blow up the Houses of Parliament. And that was the intention of all of these Guy Fawkes people. So over the years, people have celebrated. They've dressed up. They've made effigies of Guy Fawkes. They put him on the bonfire. They've lit the bonfire. But also, it was even way back in the day. It was also a time of fireworks, and the fireworks represented then, still do today, the saving of the explosion. Because let me tell you, had they succeeded in the plot, the Houses of Parliament would have been blown to smithereens, and boy, oh boy, would have been fireworks. So we always on the 5th of November do have to have fireworks. Now, when I was a child, when I was a young thing, you know how old I am, right? When I was a child, we used to make a Guy Fawkes. We'd try and sort of get hold of an old shirt or something, and a pair of pants or something like that. Anyway, and we'd stuff them with newspaper. We'd make I can't remember what we made the head out of. It might have been just that we just made a mask that we stuck on the top. And I remember my sister and I, my youngest sister and I, taking the Guy and sitting on the street corner in the freezing cold, because November in England's freezing cold and damp and rainy and all of that. But we'd stand there, and every time somebody went past, we'd hold out our hands and ask. This was the standard: penny for the Guy, penny for the Guy, please, penny for the Guy. So it was something that we celebrated, although I say celebrated, I don't know if celebrate's the right word. But anyway, we would recognize that day. We never had a bonfire. In those days, we didn't have, big areas, community areas, where somebody in the community would organize a big bonfire for the area. There were so many things that were not organized, particularly in my neighborhood, because we came from a very rough neighborhood. You could even, as kids, go into a shop and buy fireworks, and as long as you got the money, the shopkeeper would sell you the fireworks. A very dangerous time, right? But we didn't even think of the danger. We didn't think of that at all. There was no question of it. We're going to fast forward into my early 20s, and my story now concerns being a mummy, being protecting my child, being a mother. When I was carrying Samantha, I knew within 2 weeks of actually doing the deed, getting pregnant, I knew that I was pregnant. The reason for that being that I'd had several miscarriages prior to that, and my doctor was absolutely, on it and making sure that, as soon as there was even a possibility, he would sort of get tests to me. Now, in those days, remember again, all of you are listening, there was no stick to pee on. And there was no way you could tell the sex of a child either. See how old I am, really? Okay, so here I am. As soon as the doctor told me, he said, I remember going to the doctor and he said, okay, I've got good news and I've got bad news. The good news is you are pregnant. The bad news is you cannot do anything from now until I tell you, which will be when the baby is born or when you're about to have the baby. He had, when I'd made the appointment, he'd made sure that my husband was with me at the appointment, and so he turned to my husband and he said directly to him, she is not to cook, she is not to clean, she is not to stand on her feet, she is not to do the dishes. Bed rest, bed rest, bed rest. She is to do nothing. And I remember also the doctor said to my husband, so you need to cook. If you can't cook, learn. If you can't learn, buy a can opener. I remember him saying it so very clearly. So it was really clear that I couldn't go anywhere. So, of course, I'm sitting on the sofa. I'm growing fatter and fatter as the months go by. So now it is the 5th of November, and it was after the 5th of November. And the BBC had done a documentary on the 5th of November and the effects of the 5th of November and so on. So they'd done this documentary, and I was sitting there, and it was sort of latish at night, and I was listening to this documentary, and it was about how fireworks, and in those days, not so much anymore, but in those days, fireworks could go easily wrong, and so many people were hurt by fireworks. So they're describing, and the documentary is to make sure that we get it, that these things have to be organized. that young children have to be kept right away from everything. And I'm listening and I'm paying attention. And of course, I'm nursing my baby in my tummy and being very protective mummy. I'm already protective of this child. And so part of the documentary was that they took you into a hospital and they filmed different people coming in with burns, having accidents, all to do with fireworks, all to do with the 5th of November, all to do with fireworks. And this went on, and the more it went on, the more I began to realize for the very first time how dangerous fireworks could be. And they would, some of the children, they would show the children, they'd interview the parents, and some of the children, you could just sort of see them from a distance, but the commentator would tell you what had happened to them and how it had happened to them. And the final story was a young boy who was 8 years old. He'd been standing at an organized bonfire, organized fireworks. He'd also been standing behind, on the far side, safe side, of a very high, 12 feet high chain link fence. You might be thinking to yourself, how come I remember these details so clearly? But I remember these details very clearly. So the boy was standing with his mom and his dad behind the chain link fence, and the fireworks were way in the center of this huge field. You couldn't get anything safer. And the people lighting the fireworks, somebody lit a rocket. Now, we all know that a rocket goes up and then it sparks out, and the fire, and then it explodes in the sky, and it's amazing. Unfortunately, this particular rocket was faulty. So they lit it and it went up in the air, and then it went like this straight into the chain link fence. Weirdly, straight through the chain link. You know how those chain links are, sort of diamond shaped. Through that, straight into this little boy's face. Burned a hole in his face. Now, of course, we didn't see that part of it. We were only told about that. But you saw the ambulance coming. You saw people rushing. You saw doctors and nurses running. You saw the parents. You saw all of that. But you also heard the sounds. And that was the creepiest thing for me. And it was the thing that probably resonated with me and has stayed in my memory ever since then. As they're telling the story, and this little boy is running into being run into the hospital, and you can hear his cries, and he's obviously in a great deal of pain. The screen goes black. The credits come up on a black screen, and the only sound you hear are the cries of this child. On and on and on, all through the credits, all through the whole thing. And that's how it ends. It was such a powerful moment for me. Then and there, cradling my tummy, I vowed then and there to protect my child as much as I could. So now she's born, and she's growing up, and all the kids in the neighborhood are having bonfires, and all of the parents and everybody's inviting everybody. We had in our neighborhood a sort of like a communal bonfire and somebody lighting the fireworks. But from a very early age, probably from the age of about 2, when Samantha could understand what was going on, we used to make a special night of it, she and I, and we would travel for about 45 minutes from where I lived in the city of Leicester to the city of Sheffield, which was the next city over. And we'd drive all the way over there, and I'd take her ice skating. And every single year, when other kids were eating their hot dogs and their baked potatoes and lighting the fire and doing all this stuff that we do for Guy Fawkes night and all the fun stuff, we used to, off we would go, and I would take her ice skating. And the good news is that she learned to ice skate so really, so very, very well, and she enjoyed it thoroughly. The difficulty was, of course, as she got older and she went to school, of course, what is going to happen when you're at school? The teacher says, okay, I want you to draw a bonfire, and I want you to, write a story about your bonfire night, and I want you to draw the picture of the fireworks, and so on and so forth. And somehow this picture was always about ice skating, and a little girl standing on the ice with her ice skates on, and she had comments all through her life as she was growing up. Well, why don't you celebrate bonfire night? Why don't you celebrate fireworks? Of course, as she got older, we would go to some, friends or have a bonfire, and we'd all eat food and have a nice time, and what have you. We'd tell stories and what have you. But never ever once until she was way older did we ever go to a firework night. Even today, if somebody says to me, oh, we're doing fireworks in the garden, not me. No, not me. And one of the reasons that I won't go is that I would be so worried for the children. I would be so nervous about, any faulty fireworks around, because in my day, when I was young, in my daughter's day, when she was young, you really couldn't trust them. I don't know if you can now. I really don't know. To this day, as I'm telling you this story, to this very day, I can remember sitting on the sofa with my nice rounded belly, listening, watching that TV show. To this very day, I can picture myself in I only had one maternity dress, which I made myself, hand stitched myself. It was a bit of a sack, really, but then I wasn't going anywhere anyway, was I? And I was on bed rest most of the time, so it didn't really matter. But I can still see myself sitting on the sofa and watching this very moving and very tragic TV show. And I have never trusted fireworks ever since then. That is my story. And, my daughter grew up with the story. Of course, she had to live it because she was the only kid in the neighborhood who never had a fireworks night, never had a bonfire night, never ever celebrated Guy Fawkes. She was the only kid in the neighborhood. Some of you might be thinking, what an awful thing to deprive my child. Trust me, she was not deprived. We went ice skating and did all the good stuff and had a lot of fun, the two of us together. So now I'm really curious, anybody else have a story like that? Or it does not necessarily about fireworks. Anyone else have a story about being protective of your children? Or maybe some people might say that I was overprotective. Well, they can say what they like. It doesn't matter to me. It was something that I needed to do. So, Chris, how are we doing? What did you think to that story? Do you think I was weird to feel that way?
No, as you said, they did a great job in their marketing. They really were impactful to you on the potential dangers. And I've known you for many years, and you're not going to find anybody more protective of their child than you. So it makes sense.
You think? I have to tell you, laughing about that of being protective, I tell you what else I'm protective of. And people who know me really well clamor to be my patient. If they get sick, they'll request, will you be my patient? Because they know if they ask me to be their advocate, I'm going to be their advocate, and I'm going to take the most tremendous care and be the most protective of them as I help them through the situation that they're in. Yes, I am a bit protective. Oh gosh, yeah. Chris.
So I'm going to read you some comments that people have been writing in after listening to
Okay,
your story.
go.
Judith says, I think I would have done the same as you did. Protect your child at all costs.
Yeah,
Carolyn says, oh, how horrible, that poor little boy.
yeah,
I've always been scared of fireworks.
yeah.
Judith says, there are accidents and tragedies still today.
I know
Carolyn,
it's very difficult because I know people have lots of fun and they are spectacular. They really are. I mean, firework displays are fantastic, and some of the best firework displays I've ever seen are in China. But they actually do them out on the water, away from everybody, and you can see them going off, but no, you know nobody, because they do them miles out on the ocean, well, mile or two out on the ocean. Nobody is in danger. Nobody, no bystanders are in danger, let's put it that way. Chris, keep going.
all right. Carolyn says, how did you stay sane on bed rest for that long?
Well, what a great question. Chris, do you know the answer to this question?
I
You
would
know
imagine,
so well. I've put you on the spot, really, haven't I?
I can only imagine, that's, I mean, you're an earth sign, right? So you plan and strategize, you take yourself elsewhere, you visualize,
No, none of that.
knit, you watch
No,
TV.
none of that. No. You know what kept me sane? First of all, that protective mummy thing. This child is mine. I'm going to do whatever it takes at all costs. So the determination was there and my husband had to. I mean, we had more fried food. That was the worst thing about it. Fried chips, fried fish fingers, fried fish steaks, you name it. Frozen peas. That was the extent of my diet throughout my pregnancy. And let me tell you, I grew and grew and grew. I was enormous by the time Samantha came around. But how I survived is how I've survived so many things in my life. My kidney issues, my health issues, uh, you know, abandonment, all sorts of things that everybody goes through, right? We all go through pain and hurt. And I think the one thing that saves me every time is that I have the weirdest sense of humor. I have a very British sense of humor, very quirky sense of humor, but I can't help laugh. And sometimes I get so mad with myself because I'll see the funny side of something and I'll find myself laughing when all I want to do is cry. So sometimes I'll laugh and cry at the same time. But I think if I didn't have my weirdly quirky British sense of humour, I think it would that I think, yeah, I might have just thrown myself off the closest bridge. I don't know, but humour gets us through so many things, I think.
Judith says, my mother was a nurse and was protective of all of her children. And then
That's so.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was just thinking that's so nice. I think it's a weird thing. If I'm going to say this, and this might sound weird, but I never ever knew a mother's love. In fact, I knew the opposite. I never ever experienced what it was like to be loved by my mother. I never experienced being held. I never experienced sort of being sort of sitting on someone's knee. Uh, Even when I was ill when I was a kid, I remember having severe rheumatoid arthritis when I was about 11 or 12, and I literally couldn't move. But there was never a kind word or a gentle word. It was, get into bed, deal with it sort of thing. I never knew a mother's love. And there's when when people are talking about, we're getting onto another subject now, but when we talk about nature versus nurture and all of that stuff, it riles me up a bit when I think that so many people make excuses. They are cruel to other people, or they're mean to other people, or they're abusive of their children because they were abused. Well, that to me is absolute nonsense, because if you are truly uh, hurt when you're a child, if you are truly abused when you're a child, you know what it's like. You feel that pain, and if you are truly, you don't have that mother's love. Boy, oh boy, you are so determined to never ever do that to another human being. What is being done to you, you would never make another human being feel the way that you felt. And I've said so often about my parents, I really do thank them, and I mean it. I'm not lying about this. I do thank them because they taught me how not to be. And I'm so grateful, because I think that, honestly, um, learning how not to be, and feeling that protectiveness, and making sure that no child is ever going to feel the way I felt, that's huge, and that's a huge gift. And I think because of that, I like to think that I am, I won't say the best mother in the world, but boy, oh boy, I strive to be. I muck up regularly, but I strive to be, and I strive to be the best grandmother. And when my darling grandson Reese, when he looks at me, and he loves mummy best and me next, but so close, he says. I know that I'm doing something right. Because what better to than not only to give your children love, but to show them, and to talk about it, and make sure that they have no doubt whatsoever. I remember when again, going back to when I was pregnant and carrying Samantha, of course, you can imagine, over 9 months, I had a lot of time to think, a lot of time to think, a lot of time to puzzle things over. And I remember saying at one point to God, to the angels, to whoever was listening, um, what I remember getting very concerned, because I did not want to be the mother that my mother was. And I remember thinking, what is it? What can I give to my child, so that she will absolutely know that she's loved? And the thing that I came up with, and the thing that I tell any parent, or soon to be parent, uh, it's not enough to love your children, and it's not enough to tell them that you love them. You have to give them that absolute knowledge, with no doubt in their minds whatsoever, that they are well loved by at least one person, and that person should be you. And in my case, it's definitely me. My daughter, we can scream, we can yell, we can fight, we not talk for a little bit. Well, not that long, but um, one of us always comes back. But you know what I mean. We can be furious with each other over different things. Um, she will never in her life have one moment of doubt, and I know that absolutely. Not in her entire life has she ever doubted, nor will she ever doubt in her future. She has no doubt whatsoever that I might be a real pain in the butt from time to time, but she absolutely knows that she is so well loved. And we try, and my daughter does this with her son, and I strive to do this with my grandson. There is not a doubt when my grandson looks at me. He absolutely, he has no doubt, there's not a flicker of a doubt, uh, who loves him. Um, if not quite as much as his mum, well, he knows I love him as much as his mum, but you know what I'm saying. Not a doubt. And I think that that's what we should do. The gift that we give our children is not just the love, but the knowledge. We give them the knowledge that they are well loved, so that throughout their lives they will never doubt it. And I grew, sort of as a kid and growing up, not only it wasn't a question of doubt. I knew that I was not loved in the way a mother should love her child. So there you go. Chris.
Karen says, I was at a fireworks display that exploded and people got hurt in the first rows. Luckily, I was further back.
Yeah. Hence why I will never ever go to one of those firework displays. I would never put my child or my grandchild in that. And I think it's one of those things, you think it's harmless. You don't realize, people don't realize. I think, you should be at least 20 feet away from any firework that's going off at any given moment in time. That's my opinion. And I think that, the more we sort of realize these things, it's not a question of stopping it. It's a question of making it safe. Chris.
Carolyn says, I'm overprotective, especially boating. I hate seeing kids being dragged behind boats on flotation devices.
Oh yeah, that would freak me out. That's for sure. Yeah. Keep going, Chris.
Karen says, cheers to you for turning what happened into loving parenting. I didn't want to be like my mom either, that's for sure.
Oh
And
yeah.
Kay saying, good to hear you all.
Oh, happy bonfire, Kay. and because Kay's on there, she didn't know she was going to stay awake. I called her earlier on. I said, are you going to stay awake for this? Because it is until tomorrow. There's only a 4-hour difference between us and England. Of course, tomorrow it'll go back to being 5 hours. But we are doing, we're organizing right now because we had such a good time when we did our story time, our Halloween story time. And my two friends, Kay and Kay, both of them spelt the same. My two friends, Kay and Kay, came on the show, and they were talking, and Kay was telling us a story, a Halloween story, and we were chuckling. We've known each other for years and years and years and years. They're my oldest friends anyway. So it was quite funny because people seemed to like it, and we got lots of comments. Oh, come, you should all come on again, and we'd like to hear from you all again. So we thought we'd do a Rosemary Altea K sandwich. So KRAK, cracking up. So we thought we'd do a show called Cracking Up, and the two Ks are going to join with me. It's either going to be next week or the week after. Please watch for it. Again, we're also going to suggest go to the website rosemaryaltea.com. If you want to subscribe. What are we doing, Chris? For everyone who subscribes, we're giving a wonderful little gift. Whether you've already subscribed, all of you subscribers, by the end of this month, we should be sending you a little intricate little gift each, by way of email, by the way. But if you want to get one of those, subscribe, and share. Okay, Chris, keep going.
Virginia says, love you. I've seen you 5 or more years ago. You are right on with everything.
Oh, okay then. Does she mean she came to me for a consult? I'm not sure. But anyway, or maybe you saw me at an event. We'd love to know what happened. Can you tell us a story? Would you like to share it with us a little bit? Keep going, Chris.
All right. Johan from the Netherlands is on.
Hi.
He says, as you know, I am a medium. I am gay and met a friend, but he is scared and we don't have contact anymore, which is weird because he knows me from television. So I am a little confused.
Oh, well, lots of people are very nervous of this subject, and of course, you also know, Johan, that we can't push it onto anyone, can we? Maybe he'll sort of get over that and come back, or maybe simply just can't deal with it. And I've known a lot of people in my life, and I've had relationships in my life over the years where usually, actually, when I think about it, it's not that they can't deal with the fact that we talk to dead people. It's it's more the fact of unfortunately or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, wherever we go, we are kind of the star of the show. We sort of get a lot of attention, and I know that I've had relationships where certain people hate the fact that I'm getting all the attention, or that I'm giving my attention to other people rather than to them. It might not be about the fact that he's scared at all, my lovely. It might be the fact that he can't deal with the, let's say, the limelight, or the attention that we do tend to get if we're out and about, or if we're doing a workshop or a talk or something, or we're going on a TV show. People recognize us. Some people find that very, very difficult to take, and some people find it difficult to allow into their lives. So if he is a true friend, he'll be back, and if he isn't, he won't, right? But you got to just keep doing what you're doing and be true to doing what you're doing, right? Chris?
Well, it might also be having to do with soul signs, right?
Yes, absolutely. He just may not be compatible with you. Yes. Okay, keep going.
Violet has a question.
Hey, what are you doing up at this time of night? Wait a minute. You're not with Kay. I know you're not with Kay. I know you're both snuggled up in your own houses, but yes, I'm listening.
All right. It's about shining brighter. If acts of kindness make us shine brighter and meanness dulls our light, what happens to our light if we put our own needs above the needs of someone else who needs help?
Well, I know where you're coming from with this, Violet. Okay. Yes, acts of kindness, generosity, they certainly make us shine brighter. Acts of meanness do the opposite. But our first priority, and some people might find this weird to understand, but our first priority, and the reason we come here, is to develop our own soul, to help our own spirit shine brighter and brighter. If we are giving and giving and giving to people who do not appreciate it, or if we're simply giving and we're giving too much without a respite or without a break, we will dim our light. There will be nothing that dims our light more than being exhausted in using your energy when okay, I can use my energy. I can go out and about, and I can give and give and give. I can do healing. I can give messages. And it's amazing, because as much as I'm giving out and as much as I'm shining out, I'm also receiving back. I'm receiving back from the spirit world. And not only am I feeding, most importantly, I'm being fed, because I'm getting that light and that love and that wonderful energy from the spirit world, which comes to you when you are giving and receiving. It's got to be a two-way thing. People who, and I've seen this with mediums many times, I've seen it with healers so often. So this is why when I train my students, I emphasize you must first and foremost give to yourself. If you do not give to yourself, you will not be any good for anybody else, and that's no good for you or for them. You can deplete your energy, and when you are giving, 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 and you're with someone who is taking, 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 and exhausting you, because it feels as if they are bleeding you dry. It feels as if they are draining every ounce of energy from you. Number one, you're doing something very damaging to yourself and really silly to yourself, because you're giving, 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 and you're getting nothing back in return. When I say getting nothing back, I'm not talking about nothing back financially. I'm talking emotionally. I'm talking spiritually. I'm talking in getting back that incredible and beautiful energy. Um, when we do these acts of kindness, the thing that feeds us when we give and give and give is the love and the appreciation and the value that people put on that. But if you're giving, 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 people don't value it, you are going to be drained dry and you'll be no use to anybody. And what will happen is you personally will become really, really sick. I hope you're paying attention to what I'm saying to you now, Violet, because you will, if you continue to keep giving and you start worrying about, oh, I don't really like doing this because this is a mean thing to do. This is an awful thing to do. Sometimes for self-preservation, which is the most important thing, I'm afraid to say, because everybody's responsible for their own selves and everybody's responsible for their own self-preservation. And if you don't pay attention to surviving and your own self-preservation, for all of those people in the future, in your life in the future, that you'll be able to help, that you'll be able to give to, you won't be there. You'll be so exhausted or be so, sort of depleted that you'll be no use to anybody, particularly not yourself. I feel as if I've just given a lecture. But anyway, there we go. Chris.
Oh, everyone can benefit from that one. All right. Lori's on saying, I have the same skills as you. I read your book, translated into Italian, and it's fantastic.
Well, great, Laurie. Which book was it? Because I have written a few of them. We'd love to know which book you read. And thank you so much for sharing that with us. Chris.
Kay says, it's good to hear you all. It's crazy here. Huge explosions in the street, madness with fireworks. I'm thinking of the animals and they're so scared.
Yeah. Well, I know that where I live, when it's what is it? When do you have fireworks? Thanksgiving, is it?
4th of July.
4th of July. 4th of July. Sometimes I can look out of the sort of over the lake at the back of me here, and you see these and fireworks are lovely, aren't they? They're lovely to see. They're spectacular, absolutely great. But when my lovely Cachorro and Nino were here, not so much Rosie because she'd just go to sleep. That's not Rosie, Feather, she'd go to sleep. But these puppies would shiver and shake and be absolutely terrified. It didn't matter how much I held them and it didn't matter how much I tried to sort of stop the noise. They would somehow, even if it wasn't so noisy, they'd sense it. So yes, we do. Please, all of you. Anybody left awake in England who's still sort of lighting off fireworks, please do be aware that your animals will not like it one little bit. Chris.
Maggie says, my dad and a few of the older male neighbors were lighting off fireworks. One flew on the roof of the house across the street. Next thing we knew, all the men were running, leaving the women standing alone.
Right. Why would that be? Were they running to put out the fire? Or were they running in case they got caught? You only told us a little bit of the story, Maggie. Come on. Okay, keep going, Chris.
Sharon says, I am hoping that the winter months of our lives will soon be over and spring will be upon us. Do you see that for my dad and I?
Gosh, I mean, are we talking metaphorically now? Because I have a feeling that we are talking metaphorically. And, I think that someone asked a little while ago, how did I survive 9 months of total bed rest? And I said, my sense of humor. It's all about attitude, Sharon. Everything is about attitude. If you want to be in this awful winter, winter can be spectacular. You can learn so many things through winter. It can be cold and shivery, but you learn who your friends are, who invites you to come and sit by the fire, who helps to keep you warm. There are so many things about winter that can be beautiful. And I always feel that aside from getting up, and sometimes it takes me a few minutes to straighten my back and, get myself moving. I don't know. I feel like spring inside. So it's all about your attitude. And I know sometimes it's really, really hard when things are going awry to have that right and that positive attitude. I know how difficult it is. But I feel so blessed. All I have to do, if I'm sort of feeling down, if I'm feeling blue, if I'm feeling, cold and wintry, all I have to do is think about my grandson's eyes. And the amazing thing is that when I look into my grandson's eyes, it's like looking into my eyes because he's got my eyes. But it's, find the joy, my lovely. That's what I would say. Find the joy. While ever you're looking for the joy, you'll find spring. While ever you're sort of worrying or concerned or struggling and you're not looking for the good things, you're not looking for the joy, it will be winter in your heart. So, you know that I'm with you, and you know that I love you, and you know that I'm buoying you up here. Chris?
Johan said, "Thank you, and one must be aware of energy vampires. Self love is most important."
Well, yes. I never worry about the vampires personally. I just, I'm me. So I remember the Hand to Yo, the amazing book, Ruth Beebe Hill. Hand to Yo, clear the way for I come. And I guess that's what I do every day. I clear the way because I'm coming, baby. Here I'm coming. And it's, I think, if we can strive to understand that we are our own, we make our own lives. We make them better, we make them worse. And trust me, sometimes in life, life is so awful, it's so horrible. If we don't strive to make it better, then you're going to just sink into that big hole. And I, for one, refuse to sink into that big hole. By the way, I just want to mention, talking about making the best of life, I am making apple crumble, everybody, on Sunday morning, just sort of throwing it out there, apropos of nothing at all. I'm making apple crumble on Sunday. The easiest dessert you will, aside from the scoop of ice cream and chocolate sauce on the top, one of the easiest desserts you will ever make. And if you want to join me on Sunday morning, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, well, guess what? The recipe, where have you put the recipe, Chris? Is it on
It's
FaceTime?
on, yeah, it's on your Facebook page.
Sorry, Facebook. The recipe's on the Facebook page. Apple crumble. Everybody in England who's watching will know what apple crumble is. We all make them slightly differently. I'm going to make mine, and I'm going to show you how so easy it is and really, really delicious. It's one of my favorites. Anyway, let's get back to this, Chris. Sorry, I sort of just went off.
Peggy says, "I hope you are well. I teach grade 1. I feel exhausted this year. I am relieved to have a new principal. Interestingly, I feel I know him from a past life."
Oh, wow. Peggy, what is grade 1? Chris, help me out. What is grade 1?
5-year-olds.
Oh,
5/6-year-olds.
okay. Well, one of my most favorite ages. Of course, every child's age is one of my favorites. But oh gosh, I can totally sympathize with how exhausted you must feel. But at the same time, oh my gosh, I mean, what an age to teach. You must be excited every single day, and you must be in hysterics. I would be every single day. In England, I remember years ago, I don't care if you're still awake and still remembering, or Violet, if you remember, we used to have a TV show, and it was what children say. And people used to send in the most amazing and funny sayings that their 5-year-old or 8-year-old or 2-year-old had said to them. It's that children of that age are such a joy. Exhausting, but such a joy. Okay, Chris. It makes me, when I talk about it, I just want to go out and find a group of 5 and 6-year-olds just to have fun with. Don't you, Chris? Don't you just feel you could just, if you just get that group of kids and just have fun with them, that would be great.
Well, when you think about it, when Christmas comes around, unless there's little kids around, you seem to lose the magic. If you
Yeah.
know that there's kids that just everything expands. So Kay is saying Maggie's comment, which was about the fireworks on the house across the street, made me smile. Men sometimes turn into little boys at bonfire night.
Well, yeah. Okay. Well, thanks for that, Kay.
And then Maggie says, I was on bed rest with my youngest. I paid my 4-year-old the vacuum and my second doctor to make funny faces at me.
All right. You see, I would never have paid my child to vacuum for me. Although when when Samantha was about 15, um, she wanted a job, and she was too young actually to go out anywhere and work. You had to be 16 in England to be able to do that. So she begged and begged and begged me to be my housekeeper, because I did have a housekeeper who wasn't very good, so I had to let her go. Lovely girl, but a bit naughty with it, sort of dusting around instead of lifting up and dusting under, that sort of thing. Anyway, so I gave Samantha the job, and I said, but you have to get up every Saturday morning and, whatever it was, 2 hours or 3 hours, something like this. And I gave her a list of things to do. It's the only time I'd ever pay my kid to do the housework. I'm afraid, I'm one of these mothers who, right, we've eaten dinner. That's your payment. I've just fed you. I'm washing, you're drying, that sort of thing. I used to hate it as well. But anyway, and her friends always knew to never come round at that certain time when they knew that the dishes were being done, because if they walked through the door, they'd get a towel in their hands as well. And I'd say, okay, you can help Samantha dry the dishes. So anyway, yeah, Samantha did housekeeping. She lasted 3 weeks, because the first week she was fabulous, and the second week, I had to haul her out of bed. She wouldn't get out of bed, so she was an hour late coming to work. She thought that was okay. So I said to her, you do it again and you're fired. And the following week she did it again. I said, you're fired. I remember she wept and she wailed, and the drama of it. Oh, you fired me. How could you fire me? Oh, it's easy. You didn't do your job. So that was the end of that. Just thought I'd give you that little bit of insight into what a lovely mother I can be, Chris.
Peggy says, because she's in Montreal, there the grade 1 kids are 6 to 7 years old. She
Okay.
turns on music and they dance a lot. The things they say are hilarious and they love to give hugs.
Oh, well, 6 and 7 year olds to me are just as much fun as 5 to 6 year olds and 3 to 4 year olds. And I just love kids.
All
Yeah.
right. Brandon's saying, about 10 years ago, I visited a haunted hotel in the
Oh,
beginning of my spiritual journey.
oh,
During my time there, I meditated and heard my own voice in my head say, I am not Duffy. Later, researched it, and someone encountered a spirit named Duffy. This also puzzled me.
wow. You should have been telling us a story last Friday when we did was it last Friday or Thursday, whenever it was, when we did
Yeah,
our Halloween
before Halloween.
story time. That sounds very interesting. Love to know more about, if anybody's been to a haunted house, love to know more about that. Which, yes, may I'll tell. No, I was going to tell you a weird Halloween story, but I'll tell it another time. Chris, keep going.
Kate says, hi all, and she's laughing out loud at the comment of men turning into boys at night, though I contest it's when they're sick as well.
Oh, okay. All right then. Keep going.
Kate says, I'm a single mom, which is rough, but honestly, there's one person in charge, one to blame, and that's me. So my kiddos have responsibilities, but also more freedom because mama makes fun weekend decisions and runs with it.
I love that. And of course, I was a single parent. Um, I loved being a single parent, aside from finances, which were, I was left with no money and not even anything for food. That's a whole other story. And my daughter and I were having a conversation about this just the other day. It was great for me to be, as you just said, the one in charge, the one to be, the one to blame when things go wrong, but the one who's in charge and the one who makes the decisions. You're not having to argue with anyone else or fight with anyone else over those things. And unfortunately, that does happen a lot. However, good for me, not so good for my daughter, who did go through a time of abandonment and abandonment issues. So, we do have to also think about our children. I'm sure you do. Thank you for sharing that story. It is not easy being a single parent, but it's, I think, the effect that it has on children, if we do have to be aware that, and it's sort of going through this firsthand. My daughter, as much as she eventually did not want to see her father, did grow up with an awful lot of baggage, feeling that she was not worthy, not worth, lack of self-worth, etc., etc. All because she had these awful abandonment issues and could never, for a long time, get around the idea of why, what was it about her that her father left. And no matter how many times I said to her, look, daddy doesn't love me anymore, but he loves you. He still loves you. No matter how many times I tried to say to her that he didn't abandon her, of course he did. Our story time on Saturday morning, I'm going to be talking a little bit more about abandonment and abandonment issues. And I've got a great story that I love. And I remembered this story the other day, and I started chuckling because it's a weird story. It's a horrible story. It's about a father who had abandoned his wife and children. But there is a payback. So good. You have to join on Saturday morning, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. There we are. Chris.
Well, you're coming right up on the hour, Rosemary.
Okay.
Brandon's asking, why did I hear my own voice say, I am not Duffy? Is it because a spirit told me that? Or is there some part of me in a different area of consciousness speaking with spirits without me, really conscious of it?
Well, I think that, I encourage, and with my students, I help them to understand how to raise their level of consciousness to a point where they can hear their own soul and the voice of their own soul and the heartbeat of their own soul. And it sounds to me as if your soul was, you were hearing your soul, you were hearing that inner voice, that inner knowledge that we all have, but you were hearing it and connecting with it. So I think that in that moment, you probably were connecting with the heartbeat of your soul, and you were being told something, which when that happens, we can learn something from it. We can always, when our soul speaks to us, we really should pay much more attention to it. So lucky for you. That's it then, Chris, I think. So thank you, everybody, for joining us once again. Thanks for joining us for our Guy Fawkes night, our bonfire night, as we call it in England. I'd like to say special thanks to Chris again. Here you are, and despite having worked all day and then working for me all night, here you are, as stalwart as ever, doing a brilliant job. So thank you, Chris, for that. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We hope you've had fun. We hope we have inspired you somewhat. We hope you've just enjoyed our company as much as we've enjoyed yours. I'd like to also say a particular thank you to Grey Eagle. Excuse me. Particular thank you to Grey Eagle, who, again, as always, has been standing by my right side, listening to you all, making comments, and enjoying this evening just as much as I have. So we should be back on, what day is it today? Friday.
Tomorrow morning.
We should be back tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's New York time. It will be 4 hours on for England because it'll be Saturday. Sunday will be a whole different thing. We'll be back to our 5-hour difference. So we should be back for story time tomorrow, when I should be telling, the story I just mentioned. And on Sunday, we'll be doing baked apples. If you want the recipe, if you want to prepare and cook it with me, I shall show you how to prepare it, how to cook it, and all the rest of it. And you'll have a delicious dessert then for lunch. So that's on Sunday morning. And other than that, we should be doing off the cuff from time to time. We should be back definitely next Thursday also for the Spirit World Sees All. And until then, until I see you again, everybody, once again, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for sharing Bonfire Night with me. Until I see you all again, thank you so much. Bye-bye.